Fuck this book, I hate it! Goodbye! Hi, welcome back. This is not your regularly scheduled video, but I felt like I had to because I have a very special book that I want to do a reading vlog for. Because, so here's the funny story. I was browsing TikTok, as one does, and everybody was giving book recommendations for books to read after The Song of Achilles. And this book was spammed all over Italian book talk, and I felt like I had to. And then I consulted one of my favorite people, so I asked them, have you read this book? And they said, yes, but back when it was a fanfiction. And so many red flags and alarm bell kept ringing in my ear. I was like, is this another after? Apparently, this book that I'm going to show you in a minute was a One Direction fanfiction, which, yeah. Differently from After, it was pulled from the site that it was posted on, like in the beginning, very early in the construction, so just like the skeleton of the story remained the same. The book that I'm going to talk about, it's called Come Anima Mai by Rossana Saldano. It's an Italian book. I've written in Italian. The title roughly translates to Like Souls Never, which is, it's not like, it's grammatically correct, but it feels wrong on the tongue. But one, this has LGBTQ plus themes, even though I don't know. I think at least one of the protagonists is gay. And this is a collection called Hope Editions, only for LGBTQ plus books, which is awesome, I think. Never heard of this collection in Italy, but it's kind of awesome. And second, apparently it's a book that destroys you because it's super sad. And I was like, well, I bought it because of TikTok. I might as well read it, and I might as well vlog my experience, because if I'm going to get thrashed by a book, might as well show it on the internet for you to watch and be entertained. Ciao! Ciao! It's over 700 pages, but it's written, like, the margins are super big, and it's written in a pretty big font. So I thought, 2 or 3 days. So, yeah. I'll see you when I start it. So, we were starting great. The writing is very beautiful, but then the protagonist said, referring to, I think, what is going to be the love interest, he could rape me with his gaze. Why? I am kind of uncomfortable. So I am 50 pages in, and you can really tell this was a fanfiction by the way that it's written, because it is written great. So what's on the page is great, but everything that is description of places is not there. It's lacking. I can't pinpoint a single setting that I've read so far, and I've read multiples. There's like the dorm rooms, the library, there's a barroom scene that I'm reading, and it's basically all dialogues and internal monologues of the protagonist, which is really interesting, but there's nothing else. And also, one, they're using the R word so much. The dialogues are very modern for such a setting. Like, so far, the protagonist and the main love interest, like Will and Lewis, they're both insufferable. The story is intriguing, but they're both so insufferable. Not even 10 pages after, Will gets really irritated by something that and rightfully so, by something that another classmate says about him in class, and takes all his music sheets and goes into the music room, and what piece of music does he play if not Furley's? No, ma perché per Elisa? No, ma perché per Elisa? Hi, I am on page 69, which is apt, I think, for what I'm about to complain about. So actually I have a lot of things to complain about. So for once, when you're writing a dialogue, you usually like give little markers of who is talking and how they're talking. Like he said, or he mumbled, or he whispered, right? There's none of that. Just like a list of dialogue with none of the prose, which kind of irks me. And then they're talking about a character called Boccadoro in Herman Hesse's book. And the protagonist Lewis is making a sex joke about Boccadoro, which means golden mouth. And the joke only works in Italian. So they're British, they're reading that in English. Why would they know that Boccadoro has a double meaning in Italian? Another thing that I have to say, the banter is great. They have great banter. The problem is, these two characters don't know each other. There's so little like space for them getting to know each other that they talk about nothing. They know nothing about each other, but they banter like old-timey friends, which feels unnatural, you know? I feel like I'm the black sheep that doesn't like this because I've read plenty of fanfiction in my time, and this feels like the most fanfiction-y book that I've ever read. I haven't read After, but you know, I pray that this is going to get better. This is the face of someone who is done with this. What do you mean you love him? We're on page 82. You hooked up? You talked 3 times. What do you mean you love him? It's just the only boy available. You don't love him. It's just there's nobody else. My God! Hi, it's a couple days afterwards and I'm on page 220 of Come Anima Mai and I have some things to say. So I've reached the conclusion that this is a script. This is not a book, this is a script interlaced with a couple inner monologues, and there's nothing else. There's not one single physical description of the characters. Not one. There's not one single description of the places that they visit. Not one. The characters went to Rome, Florence, and Naples in Italy. Not one single description. Not one. They've argued 14 times in the space of 200 pages. They're extremely jealous of each other. Their relationship is not healthy at all because they're jealous of everybody and everything, and they get mad and then they argue, and in the span of 2 pages they don't really talk it out. They're just like, yeah, I'm jealous, get on with it. And we're like, no, that's not how relationships works. I don't even mind that there's not actually a plot. It's 100% character driven. I'm okay with that. I've loved a book like this. This one, however, is lacking in what makes a book, I think, in what like separates a script from a book. These are my major like gripes. I still want to finish this because apparently there is something that happens that is really, really sad that I want to get to, because apparently it makes everybody ugly cry. But there was one funny thing. The main character has multiple sisters, and one of the bigger ones, like the older ones, is called Victoria, and he calls her Tori. They're British. That was hilarious. That made me laugh out loud. That was like so good. Hi, I'm back in my home and I'm basically on page 300 of this book, and something is happening with the fact that I think like everything that I've said so far still stands, but I want to see how this turns out, which piqued my curiosity. But I have a theory and I'm going to put it right here, because if I am right, I'm going to murder someone. So, Will, the main love interest, is beginning to cough at night. It's like a little detail, but I don't think the author knows how to be subtle about things. If Will turns out that he has like an incurable illness, I'm going to riot. Hi, it's 10 days later and I have just one thing to say. Fuck this book, I hate it! Goodbye! That was liberating! Okay, no, on a more serious note, I finished the book like 2 minutes ago, and it took me such a long time, so much longer than I thought it would take me, and it almost put me in a reading slump, and I have a lot to talk about. So, the basic premise of this book, if I haven't like already said it, the protagonist is called Lewis, okay? And he's gay in 1937, so of course he has to keep it a secret. So to meet guys, he goes into one specific pub, because he goes to Cambridge and there's one pub that is for like gay people, and he meets this guy, they fuck, and then they meet again because they're both students at Cambridge, and our protagonist Lewis is like, this is the man of my dreams, he is so hot, I love him. And then for 500 pages and more, they just like tell each other, but not tell each other that they love each other. They fuck a lot, like they have a lot of sex, and they think about like lovey-dovey stuff, and they get so like, this is not a sustainable relationship, and they're like 18, so they're not like horny teenagers. I get that they are gay young adults in 1937, but still, because apparently for the two main, like for Lewis and Will, the love interest, everybody's gay and everybody is out to get them, like to tie them up and have sex with them, because they are apparently hungry beasts. They're so jealous, so incredibly jealous and possessive of each other, and it's not healthy at all. They have the same argument in which they don't trust each other, but they love each other. And then they argue and they say so many mean stuff. They don't find a resolution ever for 500 pages. It's the same conversation over and over and over and over and over again. And they don't find a resolution because their resolution is sex. So I don't know why they're surprised that they get to a point where they think they both cheated on each other. They think because Will did not cheat on Lewis, it was because he is not the American liberal that he made it out himself to be. He is actually a German Nazi. Yeah, because in the last 200 pages of this book, Second World War hits, and so Lewis goes into battle with England, and he thinks that Will has gone back to America because they had like a huge argument and they never saw each other again, and then the war hit. So Lewis thinks that Will is in America because he thought he was American. He's not, he's the son of a lord in Germany. And so he joins the Nazis. How fun. So one day Lewis gets captured, and the one that is supposed to torture him is Will. And then they manage to have Lewis escape, and you find Will's diary throughout all of his time in Germany, and yada yada yada. He's a Nazi. I would have never forgiven him. He, at the beginning, was in the battlefield, right, with the Führer. He was on their side, and he thought the Englishmen were the one who were evil. So I know that there's not a good side in world wars, especially in World War II. But the only thing that manages to break Will's resolution in the Führer and Germany is that they burn art, because to erase other countries' history, the Nazis used to burn books and paintings and break statues, and that was the one thing that Will could not condone. Not death, not the racism that he said multiple times he was against when he was with Lewis at the beginning. Not the misogyny, not the blood purity, not everything that Nazism stand for. It was the art burning. And then they kind of live happily ever after, because Lewis has a wife and kids. Okay, so this is what you missed since my last update. The things that irked me the most was 1. The potential, 2. The writings, 3. Some ableist words that I'm going to comment on. So for 1, the potential of this book, and it goes hand in hand with the writing. When I say this feels like a fanfiction, because it was, and it should have been edited like a ton. I don't mean to say that there aren't fanfiction who are like wonderful pieces of literature, because I've read some of them. But when I say this, is that in fanfiction you take characters, or in this case real people, which is really weird, but you take characters 80% of the time and you put them in a story that you write. So people who read that fanfiction know those characters, and sometimes also the setting. So you don't actually have to describe their appearances, the characteristics, and even sometimes you don't have to truly describe the setting, because people already know that. But I'm reading a book. This is a book now. You can't do that. And in over 700 pages, there's not one description. I counted. There's not one description. I don't know how the characters look like. I don't know how any other character looks like. Any of the settings, they go to Italy and it's like 3 paragraphs because there's no description, and every part of the exposition is done through dialogue. You know that phrase, like show don't tell. This is the golden rule of writing. Everything is telling in this book. Everything is done through dialogue, like info dumps. And it's really, really tiring on the eyes. And the thing I said about potential is because this book is divided into 2 types of writing. There is dialogue without any markers of who is talking. So it's like a list of phrases and you don't know who's talking. Then there is the internal monologue, like the feelings of Lewis, and it's the only thing that you get apart from dialogues. And those are written so well. I love those dialogues. It manages to convey the feeling of pure lust, love, longing of this boy in the 1930s and 40s so well. And it was like, why couldn't this be edited? It needed editing. And one of the last points that I want to make is some kind of ableist words that have been put in the book. In the beginning, Lewis' roommates think that Will is deaf and mute because he doesn't respond. He never talks. And so they think that he's deaf and mute. And they call him the R word. A lot. Like a lot. And it's done as an insult, okay? So I know that it's the 1930s and that word was probably used like this much. But everything else in the dialogue is so modern, and I'm going to quote, translating, but it's a quote, because Wills refers to Lewis as his hot piece of ass multiple times. So if the dialogue is so modern, why couldn't you get rid of the word that starts with the R? It's really ableist. It's not nice. This is kind of a pet peeve, but since we're here, this is my channel. There are so many mentions of famous people in this book. There's like Jean Cocteau, there's Picasso, there's Alan Turing, there's Winston Churchill, who is actually a character in this book, and so many others that are treated like we treat them now. Okay, so there's this aura of history that we give these people now, but back then it wasn't like that. Especially when Lewis gets captured by German soldiers and they want information and they send Will to take that information, and Lewis thinks that they know that he knows about Alan Turing's machine Enigma because Alan Turing once went in a conference with his dad because his dad is a lord and they talked about Enigma. Alan Turing's machine was one of the best kept secrets of the English military intelligence, and Lewis just happens to overhear something about Turing's machine and codes. What? Also, the German soldiers couldn't have known about Enigma and about Turing because when he gets captured is just at the beginning of its construction. And not even the States truly believed in Enigma at that point. If this was a 300 pages book and it was just like the beginning and the ending and was heavily edited, because this is not book writing, this is not prose, maybe this could have been like a good, great LGBTQIA+ book, but it's not. And apparently me and other 2 people are the only people who thought this book was not good. I wish the author all the best because her monologue, like the inner monologues, were done beautifully. So yeah, this book was torture. I went on reading slump because of it, and I had to resort to audiobooks, and that didn't help. So yeah, can we just... You reached the end. I hope you had fun watching me suffer. As always, socials, I have them, they're down below, alongside some very important links that you really have to check out. Some petitions, places where you can donate if you have the means to, all that fun stuff. It literally takes a second. And then I have a Goodreads if you want to see what I'm reading. And I have a Twitter if you want to connect with me. It's a fun time there, lots of memes, lots of me suffering through other awful books. And I also have an Amazon wishlist, even though I don't use Amazon. It's just to like check the prices of things, and if you want to see what I plan on buying next, it's down there. And as always, I hope you had fun. Goodbye. Goodbye.